Hello and welcome to the Sixth Pillar Podcast, hosted by retired Chief Neil Gang, CEO of Fourth Watch Consulting. I'm Shalene Finstead with Techne Innovation, and today we're proud to welcome our new sponsor, Virtual Academy Training and On-Site Plus, delivering post-approved training and first responder wellness education. In this episode, we're igniting change with our Ignite 2025 Voices series. And for the next 6 episodes, we'll be featuring speakers from the upcoming Virtual Academy Ignite 2025 Wellness Summit, November 12th and 13th in Franklin, Tennessee. Today, we're honored to welcome our next featured Ignite speaker, Dr. Phil Baquie, an Australian-born psychologist, executive, author, and trainer who's worked with elite teams including the U.S. Army Special Forces, Navy SEALs, U.S. Marshals, and DEA. With a rich background in military, law enforcement, and private security, Dr. Baquie offers a powerful perspective on leadership, communication, and resilience under pressure. Chief Gang, the mic is yours.
Welcome back to the Sixth Pillar Podcast, Ignite 2025 Speaker Series. I know I continue to say I'm so excited to have this next guest on, and I am. But this guy has been a brother of mine. We met during this course of trying to bring wellness to people, trying to raise awareness. And there's just a message that Dr. Phil Baquie is going to deliver that is super exciting. And I've taken a lot of things out of his message just for myself. But I am super excited about this partnership with Virtual Academy On-Site Plus Training Solutions to bring us Ignite 2025 in Nashville, November 12th and 13th. And we're super excited about this opportunity to elevate our experience when it comes to wellness, but to bring in lived experience, people, industry leaders who know what they're talking about, who have lived this world and can deliver a message that will help us both in our personal lives and also our professional lives. Again, this is a bifurcated message. It's not just about going back to your organizations and creating change. It's about you taking things home so you can be better and healthier for your family and your people. So again, an industry leader on resiliency, Dr. Phil Baquie. He'll be speaking about point number 4 in the ASHA model, the resiliency, about self-care, about professional care. Talk about somebody with culturally competent. You know, now it's become a buzzword in our profession, but culturally competent, somebody who has lived experience, someone who's been there. This guy's been in the military. He spent time in law enforcement, and now he's a doctor presenting his expertise on resiliency. Now, understand that there have been people out there, I'm not going to name names, that have given like an 8-hour course and give you a certificate at the end and they call you culturally competent. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about somebody who can deliver a message, who has lived experience and has so much credibility. I am so excited to introduce to you Dr. Phil Baquie. Phil, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Neil. I really appreciate being here. And of course, it's awesome to work with you and see you again.
Yeah, I always tell people that our profession, we're always behind the curve. And I had an opportunity to listen to you and we became brothers. And it wasn't just because we went to the same barber, right? It was because you had a message that was different from what everybody was talking about. Something that I couldn't put into words, but I knew that we needed in our profession. Let's do things before the event happens. And then I hear you come along with a word called resiliency. Yeah. And I'm like, that's exactly what I'm talking about, but I couldn't put the words together. You put it together. You talk about something left a bang. Share with the audience today about what that even means and what you'll be bringing to the summit.
Oh, absolutely. So the idea of resiliency is really to look at how can we be resilient? Because, you think of resiliency and the correct definition for that would be to look at how we react and respond after incidences have happened, to bounce back and to continue on and to maintain wellness and mental health and physical health and our ability to move forward in a healthy way. And the idea of the resiliency is to look at this, well, before the event. So in the special operations world, in the military, we talk about BANG as being maybe a mission, or in the first responder world, it could be a critical incident. And so quite often, most of the work with mental health is done right of BANG, meaning afterwards, after an event has happened. They bring in the peer-to-peer experts. They bring in folks like you and me to come and talk and to help encourage and support first responders to move forward in a healthy way. but it's reacting to what's happening instead of being preactive. And so I was sitting in a training with the FBI National Academy on resiliency, and it was an excellent training, a week-long train the trainer program. And as I was sitting there, I was listening to what we were discussing, and I was thinking, man, this is really important and needed. But even more than this is not just the way we react and respond to situations and critical incidences, but how can we prepare ourselves on the front end so that when those critical incidences take place, we've got the tools and resources within who we are to actually push through them from the very start in a way that's enabling us to move forward in a healthy way. So that's the idea of the resiliency, or the left of BANG, is getting ahead of incidences and accidents and critical incidences to be able to enable our first responders to be able to have the tools to be able to cope and deal with what's going on for them.
And that's such an important message, number one, but also a mission, because that is typically what we do, right? We're typically responding to calls. We're typically doing everything on the tail end. But if we can get in front of these incidences and we can teach people how to be resilient and train them to be resilient prior to these incidents happening, I think we'll see so much more success on the back end of this. And I think that's where our efforts need to be put in. I know that there's a lot of people doing great things out there about resiliency and teaching us about that, but there's not a whole lot of people training us how to do that on the front end. So I appreciate your message. That's why it resonated with such I can't even think of the word, maybe magnitude, just the way it came across. It was just an eye opener, and it like raised my awareness to say, okay, that is somebody who understands what we need, number one. But number two, we have to deliver that message that let's get our people resilient before the events happen. Now, it's a funny story, but your accent, I think people will probably be able to guess a little bit where you're from, but tell them where you started out in law enforcement.
Well, originally I'm from Australia, so that's the accent. But I was briefly in law enforcement in Mississippi, in a small Delta town. So that was it could have been a reality TV show right there on its own, trying to talk across a radio with an Australian accent with a bunch of folks with a Delta Mississippi accent. So neither of us could understand each other. It was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I remember that story, and I found that funny as well. I want to talk a little bit about just what are you seeing around the country? I know that you've done one-on-one trainings with people. I think we still see leaders a little bit reluctant to understand this concept of investing in our people on the front end. What are you seeing around the country? Is there anything you could share with the audience a little bit about what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think the biggest resistance across the board for all of us in the wellness space, working with first responders particularly, and then also I do a lot of work with military too, and they are very much cut from the same cloth as first responders. And that is this idea that strength is found in pushing aside anything that could cause us to be vulnerable. And so when it comes to even talking about with executives and leaders in the first responder world, is to help them understand that the threat or the feeling of being defensive about what we're coming to the table with is that what we're not doing is talking about how to sit around and have group hugs and talk about weakness from the perspective of something that's going to make us vulnerable to threat. Because the problem in the first responder world is we don't want to be vulnerable to threat, because usually that means someone's going to get hurt. But in the case of the things that we're talking about and what you're doing, which is phenomenal, is bringing awareness to our leaders in the first responder world of the need to be able to see that vulnerability in regards to our wellness is actually showing strength in who we are. The real weakness amongst our leaders within this nation and around the world when it comes to first responders is not pushing in to embracing these kind of things that we're talking about, because they see it as threatening. They see it as a way where, that vulnerability is going to show up, and that's a negative thing that it's often seen as. But instead, what we're talking about is the way to embrace vulnerability, the way to be able to bring curiosity into looking at how can we move forward to create a healthy culture within our first responder world. And that starts with the leaders. That part is top down. The necessary aspect of being able to help our leaders understand the way in which, when we can get alongside, be authentic within who we are, be vulnerable in regards to what's going on inside, and be able to address those things with strength and with courage, that actually is the exact opposite of so often of what I encounter. And I know what you do too, especially having been a chief, of the first responder idea of, I can't embrace these struggles that I'm having.
I think you bring up a great point. And we use the word vulnerability like you're sitting in a corner and you can't function. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being a human being. And I will back you up and agree with you. And I wish I had sound effects. Maybe Matt and I can work on getting sound effects and do some applause when people say some good things. But the fact, if you raise your hand or you're vulnerable, that's not a sign of weakness. So if you're listening to this, that's not a sign of weakness to share that maybe you were struggling. It's a sign of courage. So it's that paradigm switch where we change these things from weakness to courage that will give us an opportunity to have these conversations, take them out of the shadows, put them into the open. And that's where real change will happen. That's where we're going to start making an impact. If we continue to think that we're weak and that we're not fit for duty because we're struggling, that's a bad message. And that's why we are where we are today. So again, it's that switch and that mindset to say, you know what, if you raise your hand and you share with somebody that you're struggling, or you share a story that you had to get help, and then you share that with your people as a leader, that is so strong. And people will resonate with you because they want to follow a leader who is human. They don't want to follow this militaristic old school leader that had no emotion, didn't know who we were. Things have changed. We want emotional, intelligent leaders that understand they have to lead with the heart, compassion, and empathy. So thank you so much for reiterating what I've been trying to say for a long time. And it's nice to have people like you with your credibility to support that mission. I remember one time we were sitting down. In fact, we weren't even at the event yet, but we were eating breakfast together in a hotel before we went to an event. And we were speaking and we were talking about diet. And you and I were talking about actually lion's mane mushrooms. And we were talking about different things that we could do naturally to make us healthy. And I remember a conversation, and there was a study, I believe, done, or your thought was that if we eat right and we do healthy things, there's a lot of mental health issues that we can overcome just by doing that and taking some self-initiative. So can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the vast majority of what we struggle with, not only from a mental health perspective, but I also believe physically with the ailments that we have. And of course, you're fully aware of this, as probably the majority of our viewers or listeners or those that are going to attend the upcoming conference, is that diet and nutrition play a massive role in our overall health. And of course, within the first responder world, the biggest killer is hands down heart disease, and realizing the lack of physical care, which is what we're putting into our bodies and how we include movement and exercise within that. And so what I found from all of the people that I've worked with throughout the years is that three things, and this is not rocket science: what I put into my body, what I'm eating, how I'm moving, the amount of exercise I'm doing, and the level of sleep that I'm getting. All three things that can be very challenging for first responders. If I'm able to focus on those, they by default adjust so many of the issues that we tend to find within first responders. And the thing I've noticed is that the longer someone is in a profession in the first responding world, is that quite often bad habits creep in over time because you get to a point of just surviving instead of thriving. And I believe that if we can focus on those three things right there, we take care of the vast majority of our mental health and our physical health issues that brings us to a point of being optimized in how we function and operate, and enables us to execute our mission with absolute credibility and strength. And so they're the biggest things that I see, just simply focusing on what I'm putting into my body, how I'm exercising, and how much sleep I'm getting can really go a long way in helping maintain a healthy lifestyle.
That short little tidbit of information is so important. And as I go around the country and I speak about sleep deprivation, no one's taught that, but sleep deprivation to me is probably one of the biggest issues we're facing in our profession. Now I get recruitment and retention seems to be the red herring. Leadership is also one, but sleep deprivation is huge. I speak a lot on that, and we could probably have a podcast just on sleep deprivation, which we will. Then you talked about heart disease, and I'm super excited that Dr. Ben Stone will be at the summit talking about cardiac disease, talking about being resilient when it comes to getting your blood work done and seeing what your markers are so we can avoid these heart attacks before they happen. You're right. Cardiac disease is a major challenge in the first responder profession. So you hit on two great things that we'll be able to talk about at the summit. As we move forward, and I know we only have a few more minutes together, I'd like each speaker to give a tip to our leaders that will be present, the leaders that are listening to this, and then, of course, the future leaders that are going to shepherd this profession forward. So from a resiliency standpoint, when we talk about self-care, again, personally and professionally, not just professionally, what tip can you give the leaders and future leaders of this profession?
Those of you who are going to come and attend the conference or continue listening to your podcasts or pushing into the world of wellness for first responders, I've got one word for you, and that word is curiosity. Being curious. When I'm curious, it gives me the opportunity to learn. It gives me the opportunity to grow in areas that maybe I don't know about. And when we push into areas of discomfort, curiosity can be a major help in overcoming the difficulties of feeling threatened by learning new things. Because what happens is when I'm curious, it promotes humility. And when I'm curious, it promotes my ability, as I mentioned before, to learn and to grow. The opposite of that would to be presumptuous, which would be to assume coming to another conference, well, what are they really going to teach me that I don't already know or haven't already heard? And whenever I come with an attitude like that, it cuts me off from my ability to grow. And it cuts me off from my ability to be able to pursue other things that maybe I hadn't considered. Because, maybe it could be pride, it could be arrogance, it could be ego, it could be defensiveness, but whatever it is, if I allow curiosity to coat everything that I approach, even if it's something I don't agree with, how can I learn about the person that's speaking to me to understand where they're coming from? And that is one word that I think for first responders, and I'm going to hit on it some when I talk a little at the conference, and how that ties into resiliency and resiliency. But curiosity is a word we desperately need to be absorbing in the first responder world.
Love it. Great message. And it's something you don't see being talked about very often, and certainly not perpetrated through all these AI messages that are sent out through LinkedIn. So thank you for your originality and thank you for your authenticity, Phil. It's so important. Before I give you an opportunity to tell people where you're from, there's something that I've been talking about, and it's called It's Okay to Be Okay. There's a message out there that it's okay not to be okay, and that's true too. And if you need help, go get help. But we all do not have to be victims. We can decide whether or not we're going to limp out of this profession or walk out of this profession. If your agency is not giving you, annual blood work, if your agency is not giving you an opportunity to work out on duty, all those type things, take it upon yourself and do that because you deserve it and your family deserves it. Go get your annual blood work done. Try yoga, try meditation, go do online workouts. Go do working out, do all these things that you could do on your own. Don't wait for someone else to do this. Again, you decide if you want to walk out or you want to limp out this profession. And again, let's stop talking in the negative. It's okay to be okay, and it's okay to take care of yourself. With that, I'm going to give Dr. Phil an opportunity to let everybody know where they can reach out to him before the conference and just an opportunity to reach out and get more information from him.
Appreciate that.
Go ahead.
So probably my website's tacpre.com, TACPRE, short for Tactical Resilience. And you can also get me at phil@tacpre.com as well if anyone wants to shoot an email if they're curious about having a chat before we get the opportunity to meet at the conference. But I really do appreciate the opportunity once again to share with you, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone there.
Well, a short time, but we have an opportunity to get a little taste of what you're going to see at this Ignite 2025 conference. Again, we're super excited about this partnership with Virtual Academy On-Site Plus Training Solutions. We're excited about this Ignite 2025, an elevated approach to a wellness summit in Nashville, November 12th and 13th. And remember, seats are limited, but seats are limited by intention. We want this to be different. We want this to be a boutique. We want this to be a niche approach. And remember that you all could be the spark that ignites the enduring flame that's needed in this profession right now when it comes to wellness. And remember, if you're out there doing this job with a servant heart, you'll always be needed, wanted, and appreciated. God bless you. We look forward to seeing you in Nashville.
We extend our gratitude to retired Chief Neil Gang for leading today's exploration of wellness and leadership for our extraordinary first responders. A special thank you as well to our new sponsor, Virtual Academy and OnSite Plus, delivering post-approved training and first responder wellness education. This is Shalane Finstad signing off on behalf of Techne Innovations and the Six Pillar Podcast. Be safe and hope to see you at the summit.